I've worked for several different sheriffs, starting with Wanaka, moving on to McDougal, and then Shope, and then I did not work for Mike Scott, but Mike Scott worked for me when I was a sergeant North District. So I can unequivocally say that when Jim Leavens is elected sheriff of Lee County, he will be the most experienced and qualified sheriff that I've ever seen. I've been a resident of Lee County for since I was about 6 weeks old until I'm 62 now, so for most of my life. When I retired, I was a major. I was actually a district commander of West District at my last duty station. I was district commander of Bonita prior to that, and then a watch commander for the entire county before that. I would describe Jim's dedication and commitment to the 110% ratio. He worked for me in the East District of Lee County. I was a lieutenant. I knew of Jim before. He started in the West District in patrol, and I knew about him, but when he came to the East District, I got to know him better. He was a detective for me East, and East was a fairly busy district. We had a lot of things going on. There was never a time that he wasn't the first to pitch in and want to work the extra or solve the case or be somehow involved. So I think that amplifies his dedication and commitment. He wasn't someone that needed constant supervision. Jim was one of the people that you could give him the case and you knew that he was going to do the best that he could to solve that case and draw it to a conclusion. I think the most impressive part about Jim Leavens is his intellect. He's a very smart guy. He is analytical, so as a detective, that was remarkable. But combined with the dedication and commitment that he had, as well as his intellect and his desire to help the community, those were the things that impressed me the most about him. He's a true professional. Every job that he ever went to within the agency, he made friends. If he made enemies with anyone within the department, it was generally because they had some kind of an issue. They weren't doing something proper, they weren't doing something correct. And he was a professional, so he liked things done right. The thing that stands forth the most difficult job in law enforcement often is internal affairs, because you are investigating your peers. And it takes a special type of character to be able to do that job and come out of it with your integrity, with your character intact, and with those relationships that you formed with people still intact. Because it's often a job that's looked down upon by other law enforcement officers. He handled that with the most incredible integrity of anyone that I witnessed go in there and work in IA. There are people that go through their law enforcement careers that are malcontents, and they're not ever happy with anybody. But I've never heard anybody that I respected as a law enforcement officer that had done a lot of things like Jim had done that ever has anything negative to say about him. I believe that Jim Leavens has overwhelmingly received the support and admiration of the people that he worked with by the nature of who he is, by what he's accomplished as a law enforcement officer, by how he's interacted with the community. Deputies that I know that are currently still on the Sheriff's Department and deputies that have retired, that retired with me, all feel very favorably about what Jim has done with his career. And in and of itself, that's pretty remarkable. And when adversity struck in the department, he came out shining. And that's not always the case. Some people buckle under pressure. He never did. Not only did he have a 30-plus year law enforcement career, and all here in Lee County, but he's also an incredible family man. He married into a phenomenal family, and I personally know his family. When you do as long as he has in law enforcement and your marriage is still intact, that's remarkable in itself. And I would like people to know that there's a lot more to Jim Leavens than just a deputy sheriff, that he's a human being and he's a good human being, and that he tries to do what's right in every situation that I've ever witnessed him in. The thing that I would say to somebody who doesn't know Jim personally and doesn't know of his character and his qualifications is that listen to the people that do know. Listen to the people that served with him. Listen to the people that he helped along the way as a law enforcement officer. Listen to the people that he went to their house when something terrible had happened in their family and gave them that shoulder to cry on and did all of those things. And as a major crimes detective, the most horrific things happen to families, and he was able to comfort them by not just solving the case, but to be there to listen to their concerns. When electing a sheriff especially, experience matters to me more than anything else. An informed decision comes from experience, from knowing what that job entails. If someone's in trouble, for instance, in major crimes for not performing an investigation the way that it should have been performed, or missing details that should have been, if you've never done that, you don't know that they missed those. And if you've never done it, you don't know how important it is to that case to get it right. But if you're the sheriff and you've done those things like Jim has, you understand that and you can make a better decision about that. Being a deputy sheriff is very political, even on what you do on the street level. How you interview people, how you speak to people, how you relate to people. And that's part of what politics is. So teaching someone to be a politician is easy compared to having a politician who is an elected sheriff and try to teach him how to be a law enforcement officer. A vote for Jim Leavens for this community means that the citizens here want to make sure that they have the most qualified sheriff that they can have. That someone that's not just a politician, but someone who is a deputy sheriff, who has served in that capacity, who understands this community inside and out, who wants to do good for the community. I think Jim is prepared to take on this role because maybe even unwittingly, he prepared for this his whole life. By moving through the agency and gaining the experience that he did in major crimes, in internal affairs, in patrol, in investigations, and in narcotics, he prepared himself to be the most well-rounded sheriff that we've had in many, many, many years. As a matter of fact, maybe even ever. I 100% support Jim Leavens for his candidacy for sheriff of Lee County because of his experience, because of his character, because of the quality person that I know he is. The bottom line is he spent 30 years in law enforcement. If there was something wrong with Jim's character, I think it would have appeared before now. His experience is unmatched, and his ability to take that experience and mold it into a working agency where he will re-empower law enforcement officers to know that as long as they're doing the right thing, if they're not committing crimes, if they're not violating rules, that he'll be behind them. But he's also strong enough to let them know that if they do commit crimes or they do something that's against the rules or contrary to society, that he's strong enough to take them out. He's not afraid to do the right thing, no matter what that means. My name is Kerry Griner, and I'm voting Leavens for Lee because experience matters.